and I'm joined by Chris Nelson, our Director of Systems Engineering.
Hey guys.
And I'm also joined by Doug Soltesz, our Senior Application Manager.
Hey Chris, hey Manzor.
So everyone, thank you for joining our webinar on cloud storage and with CommVault. And today we're going to talk about the cloud storage, what's new in Sympana 10 and what it means for cloud storage backups, and why SwiftStack for cloud. So before we begin, I'd like to kick off a quick poll to see how much capacity you currently have under management with CommVault, and if you have none, please let us know. And while the poll is running, I want to highlight a couple of components of the webinar screen here. We have a couple of handouts available for your download. One of them is the CommVault Solution Brief with SwiftStack and the configuration guide of how to configure your CommVault Sympana solution to store data with SwiftStack. And again, if you have any questions throughout, please use the questions feature and we'll make sure to answer them throughout and save time at the end to answer your questions. Fantastic. So we all have under 100 terabytes, and the sweet spot here is 100 to 250 terabytes in the audience. That's fantastic. Great. So let's dive right in here. So what is cloud storage? You know, cloud storage can mean many things to many people. For us here at SwiftStack, cloud storage means storage without boundaries. If you have access to the internet, you can access the storage. It's just like going to a web browser. It's what Amazon and Google and Facebook and those types of companies have built their infrastructure on. So some people are fearing to give the data to public cloud infrastructure. So the differentiation with SwiftStack is this data is going to live in your data center. So it's your data behind your firewall, and you can make it web accessible if you'd like. So SwiftStack gives you the power of cloud in your data center. So Chris, can you tell us a real quick overview of what SwiftStack cloud architecture is?
Yeah, I mean, it's in just a real quick summary, right? SwiftStack is software that runs on commodity hardware, standard hardware, provides you a single namespace, a single global storage pool. That data is available, as Manzor said, anytime, anywhere through a simple API, and it is, as is the subject of our conversation today, it's compatible with CommVault and specifically their Sympana 10 backup software.
Great. So what are some of the challenges, Chris, as well, that all of our customers are facing that you talk to on a daily basis?
Yeah, good question. So we hear a couple of things when we talk to our customers about backup environments. Probably two or three main themes that come out of those conversations. One is the backups just simply have to work, right? And it's got to be simpler than it is today. There is an inordinate amount of stress around backups and restores. You hear people say commonly, right, that their reputation is on the line when it comes to the restore. We've all heard kind of that cliched phrase, right? No one gets fired for a failed backup, but you can literally get canned for a failed restore. So fundamentally, it has to work. And then, probably the next most common theme is it has to be cost effective. Any backup and restore solution needs to be cost effective. No one is getting more budget for this type of data, but at the same time, as the budgets are staying flat, we see the requirements for backup capacity and the retention periods growing every year. So Doug, switching to you here, we're talking about SwiftStack and specifically CommVault Sympana today. So how does this joint solution address these real-world challenges that I'm hearing from my customers every day?
So CommVault Sympana 10 is obviously a leading backup system in restore, and it has focused in Sympana version 10 on cloud targets. And so those can be public cloud targets, but specifically talking about SwiftStack, we give you the ability to have a private cloud in your environment, whether that's one data center or multiple data centers across multiple geographic nodes. Specifically, Sympana has just released a Service Pack 11, and in that Service Pack 11, they continue to make cloud a first-class citizen right there with NAS or block storage backups. You're able to do a new thing called micropruning on actual stores. You're able to create multiple volumes, a whole bunch of great new features and enablement that I'm going to show you in a couple of demos coming up.
Great. So we're going to cover a couple of key benefits with the SwiftStack Cloud Storage and Sympana. So one of them is going to be simplified management. You get a single console to manage your global storage infrastructure, which enables your IT teams to refocus efforts from day-to-day management of massive amounts of siloed storage to focus on strategic projects. Next piece is seamless integration into your existing infrastructure. It just works. Enables longer retention periods and enables you to meet your SLAs with disk level performance, and restores are going to be right there, right then. And with SwiftStack Cloud Storage, you get built-in disaster recovery. There's no longer need to worry about shipping and retrieving your tape from offsite locations or setting up DR targets for your SANs or NAS environments. So Chris, let's dive into the simplified management piece here.
Sure. So as cliched as it may sound, right, with SwiftStack, management of your storage for CommVault has never been simpler. With SwiftStack's controller software, you get a single pane of glass. Menzor implied this or started to say this already. You get a single pane of glass to manage your entire cloud storage infrastructure, whether that is 1 or 2 or even 20 data centers spread around the world. And with SwiftStack's technology, right, there is no single point of failure, which means you can add capacity and or throughput where and when you need it, and your data is available from anywhere at any time. So you can do a restore from any of those 20 or 50 data centers around the world. We've been using the term lately to kind of explain this a bit by saying it's active, 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 and that could be 20 actives, right, if you have those 20 data centers. So we want to demonstrate this. Menzor has the controls. He's going to set Doug up with a user account on an existing SwiftStack cloud storage target. And Doug is going to show you just how easy it is to tie this into CommVault Symphony.
Sure. So I'm just logging into the SwiftStack controller, and I'm going to create a user account for my cluster here that's called Earth. So I'm going to go to Users and Accounts, and I'm going to create a user for backups. This is where Doug's going to point CommVault. And just give him a password, and hit Add User, and I'm going to push the user to the cluster here. So Doug, I'm going to hand over the controls to you, so if you want to show anything else in the SwiftStack console or go directly to CommVault, in your hands.
So, I mean, it's really that easy. So I think everybody's used to working with NAS's SAN, where you need to jump in them, you have to provision a line, you have to create some, namespace as mount points, a bunch of complexity involved. What Menzor just showed was, hey, it's done, and this is done across all my geographic regions. So now I want to start using that storage, and it's just as easy to do inside of CommVault. So I'm inside my CommCell environment right now. And I already have a number of libraries. In fact, this is my real working environment. I work with CommVault all the time. I actually get to test a bunch of beta code with them as well. So I'm going to go to my library. I'm going to click Add. I'm going to add a cloud storage library. Now, this cloud storage library that we're going to be using today is going to be for long-term archives. So I'm just going to go ahead and call it long-term archives. And the type of storage we're going to pick is not Amazon S3. We want to put this on our own private cloud, and SwiftStack offers up the OpenStack object storage API, so that's what you would select. The media agent is, again, this is an environment I often test betas on, so my local media agent here in San Francisco is called CommVault Beta, and all I need to do is put in the web address of the system, put in that username and password that you gave me.
So while you're typing this in, I just want to highlight the folks might see cluster.swifstack.demo, and in the browser it says live.swifstack.demo. The cluster.swifstack.demo is actually our API authentication endpoint for that same cloud we just created an account for Doug.
And this whole account that you gave me doesn't have to be used just for this one cloud storage library. In cloud storage, you have the ability to build what's called a container, and that container is what's going to store your data. In fact, with Sampana Service Pack 11, we can actually create multiple containers and round robin the data between those containers. So I'm just going to go ahead and call this one long-term 01 because I may want to build a couple of extra containers. Actually, I even see a question in the audience right now. Does Sampana support version 2 authentication? And the answer is yes as well. Good observation. I'm using version 1 authentication right now. So I hit OK. It's as simple as that. And now I have a first-class cloud storage library. If you look over here in my libraries, I also have Block, NAS, a number of other ones to go along with my cloud library. And I did mention that there's some new enablements in Sampana 10 Service Pack 11 around cloud libraries. So the first one is if I jump in this cloud library, I could add additional mount points, and I can even pick this new option, Spill and Fill, which allows me to balance the amount of data between them. And then lastly, if I dive into the one mount point we have at this point, I can enable the new micro pruning features for cloud deduplication libraries.
What does micro pruning mean for everyone here?
I'm sorry. Okay. So for those of you that aren't super familiar with CommVault, or if you are, you currently run deduplication. When you run deduplication, you run a data aging job, which ages out some of that data. Well, you can imagine that using cloud is a slightly different mechanism. CommVault has ensured with micro pruning that CommVault aging jobs are able to go to that cloud target and age out blocks of data that are no longer relevant.
Hey, Doug, we have a quick question before moving on to the next segment. Stephanie has a question regarding HTTP versus HTTPS. Here we have HTTP, but best practice would be HTTPS.
Sure, sure. In fact, all of my other ones are connected via HTTPS. We're just using a demo cluster you have right here, but best use case would definitely be to be using HTTPS. So very good catch as well.
Great. So let's go into to Chris. So Chris, how does cloud storage fit into the existing environments here?
Yeah, great question, Mansoor. So those of us that have been around the world of backup for a little while probably recognize, or you could spell out the models that are on the screen right now. Right. Originally, most backups were from your production disk storage to tape as your destination. Right. And over time, we had the introduction of more tiers or different tiers of disk, right, for cost and density and performance characteristics. So many people have employed something like a disk to tape type of architecture for their backup and archive in recent years. And now with CommVault support of cloud storage libraries, right, with SwiftStack, we have the option to insert that cloud storage target really anywhere in this picture, right? So you can either replace or augment existing infrastructure. You could change that first line on the screen there to be disk to cloud. You could change the second line to be disk to cloud. You could have a disk to cloud to tape, or really any combination that you can think of. And most often with SwiftStack, you will get a better performance and dramatically simpler experience than tape at a much better cost point than traditional disk targets. A great case in point, right, just thinking through customers we've dealt with in the last quarter or two here, we have seen SwiftStack displace or replace tape libraries as well as the EMC Isilon or NetApp NAS box and similar products as those backup targets behind CommVault and Pana. And Doug, I think you're ready for a demo on the tiered storage target as well.
Thanks, Chris. Before we go to the demo, I want to run a quick poll here to see what your primary backup targets are. Is it tape, existing NAS, or SAN? Are you already using public cloud? Maybe using none of these. So please let us know. And while we'll leave the poll open for just a few seconds here, and I'll hand the controls over to Doug for the demo.
Great. Well, I'll let everybody click that box and get their information into the poll. So one of the most popular things is to augment your current CommVault environment with cloud storage, with local on-site cloud storage. And so to demo that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump down to my policies. CommVault uses what's called a storage policy to assign whether the data is deduplicated, full delta, incrementals, how you back up the data and where you back it up to. So for this first example, I can take a current NAS target that I'm running my backups against. It's deduplicated data. And the data that I'm running here, maybe I'm just going to keep it on this NAS server for 30 days or a month, but it's really valuable for me to take this data long-term off-site or to protect it and be able to retrieve it quickly with cloud storage. So I'm going to create a new copy, and I'm going to give it the name long-term archiving to go along with our theme. I'm going to pick the library, and so I'm going to pick that new library that we just created in my previous example, long-term archives. That's where this data is going to go. And I can pick the media agent so that I'm ensuring that I'm backing up the data local to this NAS. Remember, this library of cloud storage long-term archive is available across all of my different sites. So it's important for me to use a media agent that's local to that NAS target so that I'm not trying to waste any type of WAN time. And then I can do a bunch of neat things as well. So if I wanted to make this a deduplicated target, I can enable deduplication right here. I want to actually do this as a combine thing. I'm going to select it. I'm going to hopefully have some feedback on the line. All right, I think we're back to normal. All right, so as I was saying, I'm going to use selective copying. What selective copy is going to allow me to do is to pick the backups that go to this cloud target, because again, I'm just augmenting my environment with cloud backups. I'm going to select right here that I want to take one backup off a month. I'm going to take the first one of the month, and in fact, the last thing I need to do is go in my copy policy and select the first backup of the month of July. And at this point, I am ready to take my NAS backups, migrate them over to cloud storage, one full a month, and keep them indefinitely. In fact, there's a tab right in there where I could have even picked if I want to keep them for 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, etc. CommVault really makes it that simple to either augment your existing environment or to move your data off. I'm not going to bother to schedule it for right now, but as you can imagine, you probably want to run this on the first of the month.
Yeah. Hey, Doug. So, what does CommVault with cloud storage mean for your existing tape infrastructure out there?
Sure. So for people that have an existing tape infrastructure, if you love your tape infrastructure, then you can keep your tape infrastructure. In fact, as Chris was saying before, you can do your primary backup to cloud, and then you can do what I just showed in an auxiliary copy there, or a selective copy to tape. You can take those tapes off-site for long-term storage. But if you want your data back and you want it back quick, because you have that giant cloud library, you're able to access your data right now. You're not waiting for a tape to come back on site. So you're going to be a hero when it comes to restores. And again, it fits in anywhere, whether you want to back up to your current NAS and block target, and then you want to do a split copy to both cloud and tape. And you know what? If you hate tape, you can throw it away too.
Awesome, thanks, Doug. So now we talked about how you back up stuff with cloud storage, but what about restoring, right? That's going to be the most important piece here. So Chris, can you give us an idea what's going on with the restores?
Yeah, absolutely. So thinking back again, for those of us who've been around for a little while, right, we've traditionally seen really one of two strategies for storing data in multiple places to allow for restores when a primary site or a primary location goes offline. So first off, right, kind of that left-hand side is the notion of writing one copy to CommVault, right? Your production data is stored in CommVault, writes a primary copy and an auxiliary copy, or copies to different locations or data centers, different storage targets. In the other scheme, right, the other strategy has been that we write one copy from CommVault to a disk target, right, your traditional SAN or NAS box, and then let it manage the replication for multiple sites in the back end. Again, those of us that have had to manage that will point to the fact that those replication strategies and schemes and the transitions of mount points and all the rest of it that are involved in the actual DR or recovery moments of time there can be stressful and complex and somewhat brittle. So on our next picture here with SwiftStack, you get really the picture of what this looks like with Sympana and SwiftStack. So with SwiftStack, you let Sympana write just one copy, so that's the kind of in line with that second strategy we just talked about. But different from the traditional NAS or SAN, SwiftStack inherently handles all of the replication behind the scenes. You are not managing any replication schedules. There's no source and target strategies. There are just built-in copies of data that's a part of SwiftStack's architecture. And a restore then is simply pointing the backup software that's going to do that restore in whatever your second or 12th region to the exact same API, right? There's no figuring out which new mount points or something I need to go pull from. No more zoning or failovers and masking, all that kind of thing. Data is available anytime, anywhere. Again, that active notion we talked about a minute ago. And I think for our last demo here, Doug, you have you're ready to show us what a restore looks like with Sympana and SwiftStack, right?
Sure. So let me set the stage. Again, I have created a cloud library, and I have multiple cloud libraries in here, and I've been backing up to all of them. Now, I have media agents in New York City as well, just like in that last diagram you made. And the easy thing is, all I need to do is create that one cloud library and start backing up. I can back up from both sides. And so, Manzoor, I believe you were in our New York office last week. You said you were working at a desktop. You had some sort of material you were using for a presentation, and unfortunately, you came in the next morning and the hard drive had crashed there. I thought I saw a help desk ticket that you wanted me to restore some data.
Yeah, I actually happened to run the backup with CommVault on my computer last week, so if you could restore, that'd be awesome.
Sure. So I've got your machine right here, the New York City desktop, and you know, as you said, we are running backups in here. So I'm going to go ahead and start a restore. So this backup was made by the machine in New York City with a media agent in New York City directly to our cloud storage, that SwiftStack cloud storage. And when I go to restore it, all I really need to do is click over here under Advanced Options and pick that I want to restore it using the media agent here in San Francisco, because I don't want to pull this across the WAN. Simply, I want to use the media agent here, and it's going to go to the cloud storage here, and SwiftStack has handled all of the complexity. There's no mounting a snapshot. There's no waiting for asynchronous replication, none of the complexity you normally have with NAS and whatnot. So if I view the content of your hard drive, I think we'll be able to find it.
It's going to be on the desktop.
It's on your desktop, okay. So if I jump in Users, Manzor, Desktop, see there's one folder on the desktop, cat presentation. I'm assuming that that's going to be it.
Yeah, we're pushing to a veterinarian clinic.
Okay, I'll hit Recover Selected. What I'll do is I'm just going to restore it because that machine is dead. I'm going to restore it to my media agent right here. Let's pop it in a folder called Restores that I often use to restore for users. And it's really just as simple as that. I'm going to hit OK, and we've kicked off that job. So.
Hey Doug, so can you show us what's happening behind the scenes while this restore is happening?
Sure, hold on, let me just open up that folder because I'm kind of curious what these cat pictures look like. But while we're waiting for that restore to kick off, if I jump in my job controller, I can see I've got a restore going on right now. What's happening is the media agent is setting up a connection to that cloud, that HTTP, or as pointed out earlier, could be HTTPS address. Because we have SwiftStack cloud storage right here in San Francisco, it's going to be a direct pull from that, and we can see the job running, right here. And it looks like the job's complete. Let's see if that folder now has been restored. And if you don't mind, I'm going to take a sneak peek at what you've been up to.
Literally critical data.
That is critical data. Honestly, that's kind of a cute guy there.
Hey, it took a while to set it up, man.
All right. Well, I think I'll kick it back to Chris, see if he's got some more information to share with the team.
Thanks, Doug. That was indeed pretty easy. So let me see if I can summarize here. Just a last slide or two to wrap up the key points. So with SwiftStack, right, we get the most widely deployed and well-proven private cloud object storage technology in the world, bar none, powered by OpenStack Swift. We also get the ability on any common server, right, running Linux. We can install SwiftStack in a matter of minutes with a single command, so as simple as an installation as you can imagine. Performance scales linearly with the addition of nodes. Right? Ongoing management takes a fraction of the normally required effort, and the SwiftStack controller gives you that single pane of glass to easily deploy, monitor, manage your storage, even when that's spread around the world. With SwiftStack Cloud Storage, we get that single unified namespace and architecture. It means your backups need not be spread across multiple storage silos, which you may have today with NAS or SAN targets. And you get, lastly, that kind of freedom of choice, right? That you get all of this running on that industry standard hardware, enables administrators to mix and match that hardware from different vendors or across different vintages, completely eliminating that vendor lock-in. And this really can become your 100-year archive with that in mind, because you have no more forklift upgrades, right? Your hardware can be cycled in and out without disruption. You can literally buy it, what you need, when you need it. And on our last slide here, which I think you already jumped to, when we combine that SwiftStack value add with Simpana, CommVault Simpana particularly, you end up with a built-in distribution of your backup images across data centers, even around the world. No more managing SAN or NAS replication. It restores, as Doug showed, can come from anywhere. No remounting or remapping anything. You get the ability to augment or replace existing parts of your backup infrastructure, just like Doug showed, right? It becomes that 100-year archive. Data is online, whatever hardware you choose. You can literally get a 0-day ROI, meaning it is often less expensive to buy SwiftStack on commodity hardware than it is just for the renewal of the maintenance of your existing NAS or SAN backup target. And lastly, with the integration that SwiftStack and CommVault are doing on an ongoing basis, you get a growing set of integration optimizations. You get higher concurrency for shorter backup and restore windows. You get the micro pruning that Doug showed us today for optimizing physical space, built-in replication, dedupe and compression you can leverage from Sympana, and there's more coming in the updates to come. So, Menzur, I think that's all we've got for today. I'll hand it back to you to wrap it up.
Yeah, so while we're wrapping up, I want to launch the last poll here. So, how can SwiftStack best follow up with you? So while you guys are answering these questions, I want to say really thank you so much for joining today's webinar. And if you're interested in SwiftStack and deploying it with CommVault, you can go to swiftstack.com and sign up for a free SwiftStack trial and deploy SwiftStack behind your firewall, link it up with your CommVault Sympana system. And by the way, the configuration guide is in the handout section of the webinar panel. And if you have any questions or want to request a demo or help with the POC, you can email us at any time at contact@swiftstack.com.
Yeah, in fact, we might even want to mention that we've got some new knowledge base articles coming out on the website around Sympana 10 Service Pack 11 that specifically give you some tuning parameters in the system. So there's some specific tunables that are going to really accelerate the speed of your cloud restore, cloud backup that you can tune if you have on-site cloud storage. A lot of the tunables in Sympana 10 Service Pack 11 are tuned to public cloud, and having the ability to back up to an on-site cloud that is a gigabit link or 10 gig link, these tunables are really going to allow it to take off, allow you to run massive amount of simultaneous concurrent backup jobs, restore jobs. So I certainly invite everybody to hit the SwiftStack knowledge base and start consuming that knowledge.
Cool. So we have a couple questions coming in, and please ask some questions. We're here to help you out here. The first question that came in is, hey, what version of Sympana is this cloud storage capable with? Sure.
So Sympana 10 introduced, well, actually, cloud backup and storage has been in CommVault since Sympana 8. They really started working and making deduplication and all of the different features of Sympana a first-class citizen in version 10. So if you're already running version 10 of Sympana, then you can take advantage of these features today. If you're not on the latest service pack, I do invite you to download that. In fact, the last one came out just a few weeks ago. It's Service Pack 11. Sympana service packs aren't just about fixing bugs, although there are a few that they fix. But it also enables new features. So micro pruning was not in Service Pack 10. Installing the Service Pack is as simple as downloading it from the website and running it on your CommCell machine, and then allowing it to propagate that update out to everybody else.
Thanks. We have another question coming in from Stephanie. Is it possible that Keystone V2 requires HTTPS? She's getting an SSL V2 error messages when trying to create the cloud storage in Sympana.
So my testing has been against a SwiftStack cluster, and we do authentication a little bit differently. Now, I can show you in the environment, we can mount to a V2 authentication system. If you're running an older version, you need to do tenant and username. If you're running Kilo, then that's been updated to project and username. And I believe that if you hit the OpenStack website, there's a little bit more knowledge around that. But if you want, while we answer another question, I can certainly show how to connect to a cloud library using the V2 authentication.
Sure, you can